In today's episode, we are talking about how we let go of all the things, narrow in with a few things, and figure out how to say no with some grace so you don't have to feel like or look like a total schmuck. Here's the thing. When we say yes to everything, we really are saying no to other things. And most of the time, it's no to what are actually your highest values. You're saying no to time with your kids, no to time with your spouse, no to the gym, no to your health, no to sleep. You see what I'm saying? These yeses are actually causing a lot of negative, big time no destruction. So today's episode, I've brought in Nikki Nash, and Nikki is going to talk with us about how we get to this place where we can say no unapologetically in a way that just exudes grace. Now, Nikki, a podcast host herself, and she is a Hay House author. She wrote the book Market Your Genius. You guys, this book is so good, like tangible. I mean, there are check marks to cross off in this book. Tangible, just really good nuggets to help you truly market your business, market your genius. She has a training and a development brand on a mission to equip entrepreneurs with the tools and resources that they need to share and profit from their message, which is also under that name, Market Your Genius. She's amazing. And the two of us, we met just before she actually launched her book. And it has been such a fun friendship. She is incredible. And I'm so excited for us to learn from her today. So let's jump in. All right, today, as promised, I have Nikki Nash. Nikki, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being here.
Oh my goodness, Leah. Thank you so much for inviting me. This is a highlight of my day.
You're the best. So Nikki is amazing. And we've got to know each other, I don't know, a year or so ago. And she's just delightful. Nikki and I are talking about, instead of saying yes to everything, saying yes to the right things. So Nikki, talk me through like your own personal experiences or just your feelings. Like, how do we even start the process of narrowing in?
Yes. So for me, I kind of came up with my methodology by almost saying yes to too many things, right? And for those of you who aren't familiar with me, I'm a marketer by trade. I grew up in marketing, worked in corporate marketing, started my own business, teach people marketing. And I distinctly remember a moment in my business where doing live launches or 5-day challenges was a big thing, right? And everybody was doing it. And I'm like, I'm going to do it because that's how I'm going to take my business from like hundreds of thousands of dollars to millions of dollars, right? And I went for it and I was one, freaking exhausted. Two, by the time it got to sales, I was just like, I was not the same person. And so I didn't see nearly the revenue that I had ever seen before that I wanted. And I realized that I was doing things because somebody else told me that was the path to success, right? Like that was the marketing versus me really tuning in and seeing what would bring me joy and what do I enjoy doing. And this is something that while I had the aha moment when it came to marketing happens in daily life, right? Like somebody wants you to do something like a favor or, come to some event or, pick them up from something. I don't know. It can happen in your personal life, in your professional life, in career, anywhere. And there's this a desire sometimes or almost obligation or guilt to say yes to things, right? And so for me, what really, really helped me was tuning into like, what are the things that are truly important to me? Like if I only accomplished or saw like one or two things happen in a year, whether that's like I wanted to spend more time with my family, or I'm single and I'm like, I want to find a partner, or if I was like, I only want to, market my book this way, whatever it is, say, okay, what are the things that are a heck yes for me? Like, what's a heck yeah? And if something doesn't connect directly, not like indirectly, because I feel like, with 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, you can like indirectly connect something to anything. But if it doesn't directly tie to what I'm focusing on that year. And it's usually like 1 to 2 things, maybe 3 max. But if it's not a direct connection, then it's an automatic heck no. It's just like, nope. And you don't have to say heck no to someone. You can say, thank you so much. Unfortunately, I can't, and just leave it at that. But it's like taking it off the list. It's a no.
Ah, I love this. I love this. So this concept of going from a few things, right? Versus all the things. I think we all naturally have to start with all the things because you're just trying to figure it out. You don't know what you like until you've tried. So we all do this. We all naturally say yes, especially in our businesses in the beginning. I remember, in those early years, so my journey started in photography and I didn't know what kind of photographer I wanted to be. And so I dabbled in all of the very beginning: wedding, newborn, family, seniors, children, family reunions, events, bar mitzvah, whatever. I would say yes. And I remember having experiences of realizing, oh, this is not for me and this one's not for me. But then you get that next inquiry. You get that next person who's saying, I'll give you money if you say yes. How to work through saying no to money or saying no to an opportunity when the natural fear is, what if there's not more?
Yeah. It takes a lot of kind of a couple of things: blind faith
Yes.
and, true belief, that things will work out and there's always more opportunities, because there's an endless realm, stream, whatever you want to visualize, like opportunities are endless. And what I found, and I think it helps when I think of it from a marketing perspective, is what I find is that if I say yes to a client that I don't love for the money, right? Maybe they're not the right industry. Maybe they're just a pain in the butt. Maybe the problem they're asking me to solve isn't something I normally do, but I'm saying yes. Well, guess what? I'm now telling, it's like two-part. One, I'm telling the universe that, yeah, send me these people, right? That I already know I don't want. And then two, when I have more clients looking at my website, if that person's a testimonial, they think that's who I work with. Or if they know other people, they'll refer me to people who were just like them. And so you're essentially saying yes. And while you think you're just saying yes for this one time for the money, you're saying yes in so many ways that will impact you for so long, because there's a ripple effect to it, right? And so for me, you have to get really clear on what are your firm heck knows. And there's, as much as there's an endless bound or river of opportunities, there is money everywhere. There's an abundance of money. It just may be that you're either not looking in the right spot, or so worried about it that the only thing that you can see are the opportunities that aren't right for you, right? And so what I found also that has helped me is, this may or may not work for everyone. So you have to figure out what is the version of this that works for you. But for me, I'd rather say no to a client that's a pain in the butt and be essentially poor, or feel like I might be poor temporarily, than say yes and be miserable. And so what I do is when I say no, I don't just say no to them. I say no. And then I'm like, hey, universe, here's what I'm looking for. I'm saying no to this opportunity. I'm looking for this opportunity, and I'm going to keep looking and searching for it. Right. It's no different than taking a job that you hate, but you're like, at least it's a job for right now, because I mean, you have to do this responsibly. If you literally have mouths to feed, like, you can't just be like, sorry, kids, you can't eat today because mommy didn't want to say yes to that job, right? But if you have stability or income coming from somewhere, or a way to get by, then I'd rather force myself to look for the right opportunity. And it may mean changing your lifestyle in the process. Like, I moved from my 1-bedroom apartment on the border of Beacon Hill and Back Bay in Boston. For anybody who's familiar with the area, it is pricey. I moved from my 1-bedroom apartment where I lived by myself next to the Charles River to move home with my parents, because I was like, I had clients that I couldn't stand, and I needed to switch industries, and I knew it was going to take some time and I wouldn't be able to afford my apartment. And I knew that I was putting so much energy and effort into these clients that I didn't like, that I didn't have the space, the energy, or the capacity to find and attract what I did want. So I had to do like a rip off the band-aid, jump in the pool before I learned how to swim sort of situation, where I'm like, I'm cutting off this source of income and I'm going to have to figure it out another way.
So, okay. So what was the ending to that story? Like you give up the apartment, you move back home, and then how, like, for everyone who's like, what if I end up living there forever? Like, how does it work out?
Yeah, I mean, like, so I'm lucky. I get along really, really well with my family. And so when I moved back home, it was fine, actually. And my sister moved home too. It ended up, and we're 5.5 years apart. Um, but a lot of things happened. So first, my first week of the new business venture, I made $5,000 in cash, and I think it was $7,000 or $8,000 in like sales, right? So some people paid in full and then a payment plan or stuff like that. Now, I blindly believed that that was going to happen every week. But the problem is I didn't focus on what got me there, like what got me those clients. And so I got a little distracted and started, endless possibilities. I'm like, ooh, somebody told me this is a way to make money and get clients. And I started doing a bunch of things that weren't in alignment with what got me the clients that I had. But ultimately, I started building a business when I got refocused that consistently generated revenue. And real talk, it's not a pretty story. Like, I made a ton of mistakes. I got into debt, and it wasn't until I focused and really figured out a new way to run my business that I was able to start getting myself out of debt and move out. So I can't say, first month felt like the best decision ever. Brought in money, rolling in the dough. I was like, if I made $5,000 in the first week of this new business cash, then even if I don't do that every week, I'm like, I'm going to have a six-figure or multi-six-figure business before the end of the year. Yeah. Okay. Was it possible for me? Yes. Did I get in my own way? Yes. So I don't want to mislead people with some rainbows and butterflies story that I moved out of the house right away, because I didn't. But I was happier, right? Like, I was so much happier, even living at home with my parents, not making as much money as I was that route, than living in Boston by myself with clients that really stressed me out. Right. And I wasn't doing work that I enjoyed. So it's kind of like you have to figure out for yourself what's your version of living at home with your parents that will it's still the better alternative, right? It could be moving into a smaller apartment or living in a cheaper city, or, it could be a lot of different things.
Absolutely. Or getting rid of that giant car payment or whatever those things are. Absolutely. And in my mind, so for me, as I looked at dropping certain things so that I could focus more on what truly brought me joy and lit me up. And I was in a unique situation where I had 3 kids and was the breadwinner. And so my husband was in graduate school. So I couldn't, I had less flexibility with letting go of income and not producing it. Exactly what you said, right? Well, we have to be responsible. I can't say, sorry guys, no food this week because mom didn't want to work with them. So I worked on hedging my bets. And that's another thing we can take and try. And I love that it's like, here's different options. Now find what you need to do or combine them all. So for me, I did 2 things. Number one, when I said, okay, I really don't want to do this kind of work, but I do want to do that kind of work, then I turned up the marketing on that kind of work. I really, really cranked that dial to say, okay, then I got to work way harder to get more of those clients and give myself an insurance policy if I'm going to say no to the other ones. And then the other thing that I did and do and encourage everybody to do is building a savings account, building a safety net for yourself. And so working really hard to get it to at least 6 months so that it's like, okay, I can make changes. I can say, I'm going to go this direction and know that I've got time to figure it out. And hopefully it never gets dipped into, but it's there. So those are the two of the ways that I did that. And I love this combo of like, what is your version of of moving in with your parents. Cause I too was like, okay, what expenses can I cut? What memberships do we not need to have right now? What can I do to bring down the expenses? And then how can I turn up the marketing so that I can get more of the ones I do want? And I love what you were saying about like, put it out to the universe. This is what I want. And then if and when we can, to be building up that safety of having that bank account that is just sitting there, just so that like that, to me, that is real success. That is real security. Like, I love the definition. I can't remember where I heard it, but I heard this definition once, where wealth is how many months you have in the bank account where you wouldn't have to work. And I loved that. Like, I loved that version of it. I'm like, oh, okay. I want to be at a point, where I can say, I am the rest of my life wealthy. Like, I can, right. And that's obviously retirement, but I want to think like that. I want to think, okay, wealth isn't the flashy things, right? The gorgeous apartment in the perfect location, or the amazing car that has the car payment that you're drowning in. Wealth is feeling secure. It's feeling like you're protected. And so I loved that definition of, how many months you could go without having to work. And I'm like, yeah, I want to be that kind of wealthy. Okay. So in this process of first narrowing it down and figuring out, like, these are the things. And I loved your idea of, 2 or 3 things, not 10 to 12 things, 2 or 3 things that are like, these are my things. And then in that, you start recognizing these few things versus all the things, which opens up just space in our lives. But that means we have to say no. And we talked about this little, but I want to know more, like, how do you say no? Because that is so scary for so many people. Saying no is terrifying. They think that people are going to think that they're a jerk, or that they don't care about people, or that they're like heartless, or that the opportunity will never come back again, or I don't even know. But whatever all those are, like, how do they get okay with saying no?
Yeah. And what's really interesting is that, and full disclosure, I am not at all like a psychologist or know anything about child development, but and the reason I'm saying that will make sense in a second. But my best friend has a 3-year-old, and I learned a very valuable lesson when he was about 2. And that is, this kid will say no to pretty much anything he does not want. Like, without apology. He's not apologizing for it. He's not even telling you why he said no. He's just like, no. Right. And it was so funny and so interesting to watch, because I would watch him, if her and her husband had to go somewhere, or like there was a family emergency or something, and he and I would spend time together. And it's so funny to watch him, and you're like, hey, do you want this? And he's like, no. Okay. Hey, how about we go do this? Nope. Oh, you need to take this? No. And I just would watch him, and I'm like, he has no problem telling you how he feels and what he does or does not want in a moment, right? Like, the other day, there were a bunch of people over at my best friend's house, and somebody went up to him and he's like, go away. I'm like, okay, kid. And we're like, manners. But he was like, no, I mean, like, I don't want that person near me. He's like, I want Nikki and mommy to come hang out with me right now. And I'm like, okay, he's very specific. But finding your ability to go back to that child that is like, this is what I want and this is what I don't want, and I'm unapologetic about it, for many people will take time, but it is beautiful, right? Because I get it. I get the whole, what is somebody going to think of me? And is this going to be terrible? And blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, like, if you don't want to do something, who are you making happy or better by saying yes to it, right? Because likely the other person is going to pick up on the fact that you don't want to be there. Have you ever gone somewhere and somebody's like, why did you even come? Right? Like, you're all like Debbie Downer, not happy. And it's like, you could have saved. I mean, it may seem sad or upsetting to the other person that you said no initially, but it could be so much worse if you say yes and it doesn't bring you joy. It doesn't light you up. And you really have to get conscious of what are the things that are a real no for me versus the things that are like, I don't feel like it, but then you get there and they're amazing. Like going to the gym for me. I'm like, now I'm good. But there were many a times where I'm like, I don't feel like it. That's not necessarily the thing I want to say no to, because it's in alignment with one of my priorities, right? So you
Right.
have to kind of really get clear on what is right for you, what's in alignment with what you want, and over time feel comfortable saying no. And it's honestly just practice it. Like just see how it feels to tell someone no without giving them a whole list of reasons why no and apologizing for it. You know, you could be polite. You can say no, thank you, but just see what happens. Like that's people's homework assignment. I'm giving you that homework assignment for like a day. Just anytime somebody asks you to do something that you know you don't want to do, say no, thank you, and just see what happens.
I do agree there's so much in that, like, practice. It's something that we're going to need to practice, just like we get into habits or train ourselves to do different things. A lot of people, we train ourselves to say yes, or worse, to say yes when we don't even mean it, when we're not planning to. We're hoping to get out of it later, but that's not a good experience for them. Or the very worst is to just not acknowledge, to just ignore. And that one, oh, I mean, I don't know how many times I've sent something out just to get no response, none whatsoever. And I'm like, I would much rather you say, I'm sorry, this isn't something we have capacity for right now. No, thank you. Versus I'm just being ghosted and I don't know. I don't know. Did you just not get it? Is it sitting, trapped by the gremlins of the interwebs? What happened here? And so I think that's another thing too, is learning to say no, learning to say it gracefully, and not avoiding the confrontation, and then hurting your own reputation in the process. That's a tricky one too.
100%. 100%.
So, okay. So for your experience, what has being able to narrow down to pick just those few things to say no, what has that done for you? Like, why does everyone need to try it?
Yeah. I mean, first off, if you're ever someone that is into setting goals or New Year's resolutions, and I mean, I don't really like the concept of New Year's resolutions as a whole, but let's say you're into it or into like, this is something I want to accomplish in the year, which I think most people have something that they'd like to accomplish in some sort of time frame, right? I'll use this as an example. I wanted to write a book, and here is the biggest difference between the 35 years that I spent wanting to write a book and the year that I actually wrote the book, right? The difference is that all the other years it was something on my list and there were a million distractions that came up because I said yes to everything else, right? And the year that I got a book deal and like happened because I said no to a lot of things and I said yes to only things that were in alignment with helping me get a book deal or helping me learn about the book industry, right? And it's that sort of focus where magic happens when you actually start accomplishing your dreams and seeing things that you've wanted to achieve happen, right? Seeing what you want, the life you want happen, because you're able to say no to things. And you can say no to all sorts of things, toxic people, or as, I forget who said this to me at one point, but they call them energy vampires, like people who literally suck your energy out. Like those folks, cut them out, right? Like, lovingly cut them out, even if it's just temporarily, right? Eating for me, I've noticed when I eat late at night, it doesn't do well for my health or my diet. It's just like I don't feel good when I wake up in the morning. So I have an alarm that's just like, stop eating. Right. Because I'm cutting out my late night snacking. And it's just like something that helps me say no to late night snacking. Right. And so I really encourage you to be able to say no, because you could have, if you want it, a book deal, you could lose weight. Maybe you have more joy in your life, spending more time with loved ones because you're saying no to all the people that, are taking your time away that you really don't want to be around. If you have a job, you can. One of the things that I didn't understand when I was in corporate my first time around, and I quit my job without a plan because I was just fed up and burnt out and overwhelmed. And real talk, I wanted to live on the East Coast and to be closer to family, and job opportunities didn't exist. So it was like this, primarily I wanted to move back east, but there were these other things that were bubbling up where I was like, I need a break, right? Well, hello, there are so many things that I probably could have asked for that I didn't think to ask for, right? Like, hey, can I move east? Hey, can I have, like, I need to group my vacation together and I need to actually be gone for 2 weeks with nobody talking to me, right? Or, hey, I need, to be on a different team where I'm focusing on more things that I love, right? I'm just saying these things for anybody who's in this space. Even if you're in a situation where, as we were talking about earlier, where you can't say no to your source of income, you can start looking at, how do I make that source of income more enjoyable? How do I say no
Yes.
to certain things? And I see folks do this all the time, and I used to be jealous of it, where they would like pass the buck, right? Like there's something that they didn't want to do, and they like got somebody else to do it and enrolled somebody else in the idea of them being involved and wanting to do it, right? And it's really like, if you can find someone who gets joy out of doing something and you don't enjoy doing it, and it's a win-win for both of you, then why not come together and figure out, like, how can we win together by you focusing on certain things and I'll focus on other things, and everybody's working in their zone of genius and makes them happy. I know there was a lot there, but the net of it is when you say no to stuff that doesn't serve you, it makes you happier. You're more present for the people who in your life that need you or you want to be around. And there's just so many benefits that can come from it, whether you're doing it in your business, your personal life, your career, or professional life. Say no to stuff that doesn't serve you.
Oh, so good. So good. And so my way was just flipping that. And the way I started saying no is I started this mantra. I would say it over and over. Every time you say yes to something you don't want, you're saying no to what you do want. And I would make myself visualize when I said yes to the client who was asking for way too much after hours, but I wanted them to be happy. I visualized that I was saying no to time with my kids, that I was saying no to time with my husband, that I was saying no to 8 hours of sleep, which would mean I wouldn't get the workout in the morning, which would mean I would, all that ripple effect that you were sharing. And so I just started that mantra. Every time I say no to something that doesn't serve me, I'm saying, or every time I say yes to something that doesn't serve me, I am saying no to the people that matter most, to what I really want, to what I say I want. And so that was a big shift for me. Oh, this has been so good. Thank you so much. Nikki, where can people find you?
Yeah. So I am on all of the socials, I feel like. So Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all of the things at Nikki Nash Official. You can find me on Twitter at Nikki Nash Co, but I'm online everywhere. And my podcast is called Market Your Genius. So you can listen to that. Look out for the episode with Leah. It's pure freaking magic. So you'll definitely want to listen to our conversation there. And outside of that, you can find me on my website. I'm at marketyourgenius.co or nikkinash.co, whichever floats your boat. They link to each other, essentially.
Perfect. And we will make sure we have all those links in the show notes too, so that if anyone's like, oh no, I'm not finding it, we got you. We got you. Nikki, thank you so much for being on with me today.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for having me.
Anytime, anytime. Okay. To everyone else, this is your time to go take action. You can do it. It is meant for you. Go after it. And I'll see you in the next episode.